we're going to go a little bit broader here because the background behind this is that the Munich stadium petitioned UEFA, which is the football governmental blah 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 agency. To be honest, I don't follow football much. I don't follow most sports, frankly, but I do appreciate that they were one of the few areas more or less separated from a lot of this infiltration nonsense. And I was hoping maybe we could see some of that in the esport too, which has been a little bit infiltrated, but sadly. They had applied for a permit to light up the stadium, which has a bunch of these large-ass light casters surrounding it, in rainbow colors, and this petition was denied. If you scroll down around about halfway, Carl, you can see it, the Alinas Arena.
What's it look like?
Like a giant tire lit up in pride colors.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
And the petition was actually denied, which was a rare little point of hope there. Like, okay, so UEFA is like, all right, this is a political statement, and we are not going to have any politics whatsoever, no matter what. And they later then came out with a message in their own little logo in the rainbow color saying, like, we've got no problem with pride, but this is a sporting arrangement. There is to be no politics. And of course, people were immediately there. Pride isn't politics. How dare you?
It
and
is.
Why do you need to light it up in rainbow colors? It's to protest Hungary's laws.
So it's political.
Oh, I see. Right then. No, it was obviously political. Like anyone. And here's the thing, too. There was actually a relatively brilliant article written in a Norwegian newspaper, so I won't bring that up because about 1% of the people watching will understand a single goddamn word. And the point of the article was basically this. Pride is no longer about just the love, which is the tagline, like just about the love. It has become a political tag, like the LGBTQ letter. It is a political movement now. It wields political power and it pushes political objectives. Like it champions laws, and in this case, the abolishment of a law in Hungary. Like there's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
Most about it too is the law itself. I really don't mind. The law says that you do not get to put any kind of gender-specific stuff in material aimed towards children. So no discussion of homosexuality or pride or straight for that matter. It's just like you don't put anything relating to sexuality in books aimed at children. So I'm like, okay.
That's good.
And?
That's pretty good because children are easily influenced, and it's, important that they are allowed to develop their own opinions without being brainwashed.
Very much so. Like that is one of the key problems. You can convince a child of pretty much everything. And we convince children that there's a fat man riding reindeer on a sled through the air.
At least that's innocent, okay? Like that's like, oh, he delivers presents if you're nice. Like, okay, fair.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a little childhood fantasy.
That is the extent we're talking about here, you know? You can convince a child that a fat man flies through the sky with reindeers.
As ludicrous as that is, yeah.
Yes. And so if you tell them, like, oh, maybe you're homosexual, you can probably convince them damn quick of that. And if it was just convincing them of it and then letting them work it out themselves, all right, that'd be one thing. But we see in more and more countries like England, once great England, where they're now giving gender correctional, quote unquote, surgery to children. Like, okay, that's not something the child's gonna regret in 4 or 5 years. Like, I chucked up my pee-pee. That's weird.
See, the Western world used to be the pinnacle of advancement and progressive, like actual technology stuff, right? Now we're looked at by the East as a fucking laughingstock.
Oh God, yes. Like. There was an article in, I think it was Russia Today or something, which was basically like they're allowing black people to play in Shakespeare plays now, and I'm like, yes. I mean, I guess we are. And in and of itself, that wouldn't be the worst thing either. If you had a really talented black Shakespearean actor, okay, who gives a fuck? Like the Hamilton play, which was recently done by Disney or MTV or something like that, a musical. Like, it's really good. It's really, really good. But of course, immediately they had to turn it political as well. That was the same musical troupe that called out Mike Pence in the audience and went like, "Sir, how do you feel about serving a dictator?" It's like, God damn, shut up, dancing monkeys.
It's not really your place to do that, and it's also extremely unprofessional. But whatever. Because the thing is, you should keep it separate. It's kind of like, remember we talked about Gandalf, I forget the actor's name, and when he basically wrote "fuck you" to the politicians' kids and stuff.
Yes.
Like, it's one of those things where it's so disgustingly like, can't you like separate work from politics for just a moment? But these people can't. They're incapable of that.
In Sir Ian McKellen's defense as well, like he did so in terms of his job most of the time, which is why nobody knew Gandalf was gay until you looked him up, because it never factored into the character. Because like The Lord of the Rings, for example, is a very unsexual book. Even the romance between Arwen, and God, whoever the God is. See, my only brain now is like Boromir. That's his name. Yes, Aragorn. That was it. Yes,
Aragorn, isn't it? I thought the book
Yes.
spelled differently. Yeah.
Even their romance is depicted as very pure. Like there's never any hint of sex between them.
Yeah.
And that's because it's meant to be a fairy tale.
That and it's, I don't know. A part of me likes when the like, I don't mind sex or violence or blood and gore, right? But like something more, not just pure, but it's much more better constructed, because instead of focusing on ass and tits like Game of Thrones did, it's like, no, let's focus on the relationship aspect, the narrative aspect, which is more interesting than a PP and a vajay, like, which is pretty primitive. Something about that. Better writing.
See, that's too. Like after rewatching Gods and Generals again, I'm really kind of hungering for something a little bit more romanticized, frankly.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Something that isn't just like, oh, look at how grotesque that is, because like, you know, HBO loves doing that, and that shock and horror thing that you see even in the games industry with what's that one company where they just swear all the time. It's very corporatist. It's like you're doing it because you're trying to be edgy and cool. There's no actual reason for this. Nothing in the story is progressed from this. Nothing is really gained. All you've managed to do is just become edgy, and that's gonna make you really dated in like a year. Look at Game of Thrones. Who even cares anymore? It's literally forgotten.
And to bring it round back again to the point here, one of the reasons why I was really kind of impressed by UEFA's decision, and they did uphold it as well, despite all of the backlash, was because they simply said, like, this is sports. This has nothing to do with our politics. We are here for the enjoyment of the athletic performance. It is an international event with countries from all over the globe, and all of them arrive here and expect to be treated precisely as equals, regardless of politics. And it, of course, created a huge backlash as well, particularly up here, too, because we have a lot of very outspoken athletes. And here's the thing. One of them was on the television talking about, like, oh, what do you feel about all of that? Should athletes be allowed to speak out on important political issues and so on? And first he says, oh, pride isn't political. And then he says, and we should speak out about such issues politically. Yeah.
Yep. Because, of course, everything must be contemporary politics. We must make it about that, always, to further the agenda in every avenue of your life. It's like a great ad campaign that never ceases. It's awful.
It very much so is. And I don't mind, because he was also talking about how, like, oh, but we're not allowed to talk about this. Like, no. You as an individual is entirely allowed to talk about this. It is well within your rights and your prerogative to do so. You can talk about this all long day if you so choose, but take the fucking flag off your chest while you're doing it, because you are a representative of Norway, which means that you don't have a political opinion in this. You are not a political representative of our country. You are not a diplomat. You are not elected to speak for us. Just kick the fucking ball.
Pretty much. It's not their place, and it's not their right to speak for others because it's extremely close-minded. And that's the kind of behavior that should not be tolerated in any sport or game. It should be about the game, about the you know, what's going on there. What your personal opinions are really mute and irrelevant. And that goes both ways. That's a double-edged sword too.
It is like, don't, if you want to talk about it again, do. And for hell, make a YouTube channel, talk about it on Twitter. But don't do so in the official capacity as an athlete. This was one of the few areas where we had actual genuine neutrality, as close as we get to it anyways these days, and it too is now being infiltrated by politics claiming to be non-political. It's kind of brilliant when you think about it.
Their aim was always to be political. They try to masquerade. That's why the whole like SJW culture is a thing. It's like, oh, we're good guys. We're championing equality, and it's not really equality because they hate equality. What do they call it? Equity, which is the opposite of equality. It's actually fucking morally wrong. But they champion that, and they're like, this is moral, and this is what is good. So, like, you saying no to this means that you're a Nazi. Instead of you just simply saying, like, can we keep the politics aside? It's like, you're a Nazi enablist. Like, they try to politicize everything so that you're always the bad guy and you're always demonized. You never have a moment to speak or reflect or talk about anything unrelated because they're so one-minded.
That seems to be the case. And chat calls it right there. Sportsmen need to be put in their place. See...
That's the spirit. We'll take turns.
I kind of agree. I kind of like, there's too many of these celebrities today which believe that they must have an opinion and that they're going to use their platform to spread it. Like, okay, if you want to do that in your private time, like Sir Ian McKellen, for example, go right ahead. But stop pretending that you are doing it as anything more than just another individual.
We're not asking them to be silenced. In fact, we're asking them to be open about their politics because that is the thing about a free speech society. We get to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's good. But all we're asking is simply to, you know, separate your politics from your work, which is the most bare minimum thing to do.